Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name is Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. We've had some really heavy frost this week. It's really crazy to wake up and step outside and for everything to just be covered in a thin veil of white everywhere. The grass is crispy. The car door like literally has to be cracked open because the ice has sealed it over. So it's been extremely cold. And the temperature hasn't really risen that much during the day, but the skies have been amazingly blue mostly. Today's grey and cold and wet, but the week has been really beautiful, which has meant spending some time outside. I sat out in my shed garden on the veggie boxes and enjoyed the sun for a while and looked at all of the flowers and sat with the sheep. They initially thought that I was just going to be there to feed them. And I did feed them first. I gave them some hay and then I grabbed some of the longer grass from around by the shed garden and I pulled that and I threw it over the fence for them. That took a few goes, and after that, they decided that they were actually content to just sit in the sun with me while I sat in the sun. So that was really nice. I have bought the sheep some more hay. I was hoping that there would be enough grass in the paddock, just supplementing it with a little bit of hay and some grain. But it's just not growing as fast as they are eating it. There are patches that are quite good, but overall the paddock just needs a bit of help. So I bought 6 bales of hay this week and I'll be making sure that they get hay as well as the grass in the paddock. Another indicator that they were hungry or maybe just bored, I'm not sure, is that they have destroyed those trees that I planted. I'd put extra layers of wire around it, but I think as a team, they have been able to figure out a way to get in. I'm pretty sure that Vito gets his horns and lifts it up, and then Hurley pushes on it, and together they're able to get in and eat the trees. So I'm kind of not worrying about that right now, but I think that could be the end of those ones. And I might have to look at a bit of a different plan, perhaps putting them in the corners of the paddock and putting actual like pallet wood slatting across so that their heads don't fit through and they can't push up against it. I think that might have to be the way. Any kind of wire, Hurley especially, like he's still sticking his neck out through the fence so far. He just pushes up against the wire, and then by him doing that, then the others can get in and eat it. So they're definitely a terrible trio when it comes to finding ways to eat my trees. I do have a little bit of a challenge feeding the sheep hay at the moment. We've moved Potsy and Preston back in to the stock run, and they always think that when I get hay, I am feeding them. So I have to kind of wait until they're down the driveway somewhere, or there's someone else around who can distract them a little bit, because otherwise, as soon as I get any hay out, they literally run at me. And I don't want to be giving them all of my hay when it's supposed to be for the sheep. So hopefully we'll move them back out again shortly. We just needed them in there for a little while to get the grass down. And there were no other cows in the larger paddock, so it was good to give it a rest overall. But it might be time, I'm hoping, to put them back into a paddock so that I have a much easier time getting hay out to the sheep. I said that I was enjoying the flowers in the garden. One of those flowers is the native sarsaparilla. I can never pronounce its botanical name, but I will put it in the description below so you can check out what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful purple flower and it's a bit of a creeper. So it had taken off quite rapidly and had started to go over the chair that I had put out in the shed garden. So I've now got a frame and I'm going to train it to go up that frame and hopefully be the back of the chair. And then I can hopefully keep it pruned and have it sort of trail down around it. And it should be really, really pretty. Much more of an admin week this week after a couple of really fun weeks of dyeing, but these things have to be done. So I have done my stock take for end of financial year, counted all of my yarn stock. I have also been reskeining all of that yarn that I have dyed over the past few weeks. I always like to check and reskein every single one, just because sometimes they do get tangled in the dyeing process, or sometimes the mills can tangle them up as well. So I like to make sure that I know for certain that when I am selling a skein of yarn, that it was untangled when I sold it. So lots of handling of the yarn at the moment. The other thing I've been doing is getting all of my labeling done. Lots of little processes with that to get it all done. I need to punch holes in my tags, stick the labels on the back, cut lengths of yarn, thread it through, and then the final step is writing the name of the colorway on and then popping it on to each skein. So I decided that I would make myself a bit of a production line. I grabbed everything that I needed and I took it over to the house so I could sit where it was warm, have a cup of tea, watch some crappy daytime TV, and I just worked on getting each of those stages done. So I have now done all of the labels for my lattice stock yarn that I dyed up. It just needs to be put onto the actual skeins. And then hopefully this afternoon or tomorrow, I will get to do all of the garden variety sock labels, all of those flower colorways. And then I should be up to date with all of that. That takes a long time. So everything is now listed on the website. Everything that I have been dyeing over the last few weeks has been updated. So there is plenty of fresh new yarn in the shop. My next dye day plan is to get some DK into the pot. I do love how my Douglas cardigan is turning out with the colorway that I dyed just for that project. So what I would like to do is now do some more DK in that style of dyeing. This is the colorway that I dyed for myself. So it's got sort of blues and purples with a grey brown over dye. And I'll show you the project shortly. So I'm thinking that I will do a few more of those. I want to try and replicate this color. I did this as a one of a kind for my sister for the food project that she did with the crochet, and she made avocado, and that was the color for the inside of the avocado. I didn't write it down. It was just a fun little experiment that I did, but it turned out really well. So I am going to try and get something similar. It definitely won't be the same because that's what happens when you don't write down your recipes, but hopefully it will be similar. And because it's going to be used in a different technique, it's not going to be a solid, it's going to be those little pops with an over dye. I think that I should be able to get something that will look close. So I'm excited to try and do that, and probably do an olive kind of color as well. And I'll see if something else might inspire me. So there could be another color that comes out of a dye session that happens probably this coming week. This week I am wearing my Miranda jumper. I've really been conscious of wearing my jumpers and enjoying them for the warmth and comfort that they provide. I just have to remember when I'm dealing with hay and things like that to put something over the top so that it doesn't all get stuck in the wool. I'll leave a link below to my project page for the jumper because I have talked about it before. The cowl I'm wearing today is a honey cowl out of hand spun yarn, and it was one of the first skeins of hand spun that actually felt like yarn that I could use for myself. So I really love this. It's lovely and warm. It wraps around twice and it's nice and high, so it sits over my the back of my neck and covers that top section, where with this jumper, this jumper sits a little low, so the neck is quite exposed. So by adding something like this over the top, it really does add that layer of warmth that makes the whole outfit really snuggly. I did not work on my current sock project at all this week. It's still with the just after the heel because I wanted to cast on a different pair of socks. So I wound up a skein of Opal Hearted that I dyed last week and showed you in the skein. This is how it's been balled up. It actually looks quite bright. It looks more like an orange, and it actually appears like that in person too. But when it knits up, because it's combined with those colors, it really makes it look much more earthy. And that's what I was going for. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. It has created little like mini stripes on my 56 stitch sock, which I think looks really, really cool. Obviously, different stitch numbers will create slightly different variations of it, but I think it'll still kind of swirl and play out very similarly to that. I'm also going to knit a swatch square and my normal bloom square as well, just to see how it looks done in different formats. Is that right? Formats? But there it is as a sock, and I'm really pleased with how the color has come out. So that is Opal Hearted, and there is limited amounts of that in the shop at the moment. But if you like it, I'll probably dye some more. So what I've been mostly working on, which I had already alluded to earlier, is my Douglas cardigan. Wow, it's just started to rain really, really heavily. I'm not sure if it's going to come out through the microphone, but it is very wet out there now. And I've got to get back to the house after this. So that will be fun. So yeah, my Douglas cardigan. I have sewn up the shoulder seams with the 3-needle bind off, and it comes up looking really neat. You can hardly even see, there it is just there, the seam. It's really nice. So there is the full back and the sleeve holes. Now, I've started on the first sleeve, but this is the second time I've started the sleeve. So what I did the first time was I picked up the number of stitches for the smaller size that I'd started knitting, but I completely forgot that I'd actually added extra length between the split and the top. So I had knit more like the third large or the third size up. So I had extra space in here. So I actually needed to pick up more stitches than what was called for the original size that I was knitting. I had to sort of pick up the size 2 sizes up. So I knit quite a bit more than this, and I tried it on and realized it was super tight on my arm and it just wasn't comfortable and not sitting properly, and there was no way it was going to block out. It was just way too tight. So I had to redo it. I'm much happier with it now. It actually looks right. It was sort of bunching before. And I've tried it on and it fits much better. I am not doing as many decreases as rapidly as the pattern calls for, just because I always feel like my upper arms are quite big. I've always had to add extra length in the raglan shaping and everything. So I am doing sort of my own version of the decreases, taking notes so that my second sleeve will be the same, and just working down on that sleeve now. So hopefully I'll be on to the second sleeve next week. Then I think I've just got to do the pockets. I've got my line in there to pick up and add the pockets in on both sides. And then it also needs to have the button band picked up all the way around as well. So I am getting very close to having a finished cardigan. I love how the colors are coming out. feels like it's going to fit really well, and I'm just really still very excited about this project, and it's probably the only thing you'll see me really knitting on, socks and this, for a little while longer. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.